Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Flash, Season 9, Episode 10. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So I noticed last week that this next episode was going to be a part 1. What I didn't realize is that the entire final arc of this series, I was curious like how they were going to handle it, is going to be a 4-part. It's a 4-part series finale, so it's like, so kind of like parallel to last season where the first 5 episodes were an event. Is going to be like the ending, and obviously like the first part of this season was an arc in its own self with the Red Death stuff. But either way, obviously we're catching up with everyone. We have Chester helping out Allegra with her new costume situation, but that's not working out, but I have to go back to the drawing board with that. We catch up with Keon, whose powers continue to develop. The fact of the matter is, like her, doing that whole thing, turning into like a mist of ice below the door, and then just the apartment being what it is. I think is this our first time seeing Keon in the apartment? That she's got plants everywhere, but she's also writing a journal to everybody, to Caitlin, to Frost, about who she's become, developing powers, and hoping that they'd be proud of who she is and how she's developing. And also, she wants to be able to talk to Mark about stuff like this. Obviously, we catch up with Cecile and Joe, them spending time together. Everything's kind of good on that part. Then Iris gets nominated for her article, her and Barry, baby-proofing the place. But then all of a sudden, Barry gets zapped back to 2000. I love that his immediate thought is, what did I do this time? It's like, you did, yeah, I actually did absolutely nothing, Barry. It's like, yeah, I was just standing here living my life and I got zapped to the year 2000, which I think is so funny. I mean, especially because he's kind of got that Legends of Tomorrow thing of like, did we do something again? We didn't do anything. Wait, it's not our fault. It's like, yeah, the same thing happened here in Barry's case. It wasn't his fault, but he's here in the year 2000, and it's like, okay, who do I go to? So I love that he runs into Singh. It's like, oh, Captain Singh. It's like, it's Detective Singh. He's like, yeah, I mean, I call everyone Captain. Hey, Captain. Hey, Captain. And one of the officers kind of like gives him a head, and I'm like, what? So I love it. It's also like, yeah, like, love the hair. So he ends up talking to Joe, and it's like, I can't tell you much, but because Barry's doing everything he can. It's like, right, we've been down this rodeo before. I'm older. I've learned not to mess with time. I haven't messed with time in a while, so like, I'm trying my best not to screw this up. But he's asking Joe for help, trying to find, there's a scientist they were referencing, and they showed a flashback of her. Like, I'm like, who is she? I'm sure we're supposed to know who she is, but I don't know. I was like, that's not going to be like, that's not Dr. Wells' wife or something like that, is it? Like, I'm trying to think, like, who is that doctor they were referencing? But either way, Barry's trying to get Joe's help, which Joe's like, right, I'm not supposed to in that regard, but I can tell you're a good kid, so I'll help you out or whatever, but you got to tell me who you are. But then Barry notices what the date is. It's like, this is the day my parents died. It's like, of course I'm going to be brought to this day. So he, like, immediately leaves. Because he had tried actually going back to his time, but when he tried, he got, like, pushed back. Like, something's literally preventing him from connecting to the Speed Force and being able to punch through and go back home. And he suddenly gets attacked at one point in time upon seeing his parents. And it's like, oh, boy. But then you're like, you see the red, you're like, it's gotta be the negative Speed Force, but it's like, no, it's specifically Eobard. Makes sense. He is kicking around this time and this day in particular, so he pushed Barry in front of it. See, this is an Eobard that knows Barry's future, but doesn't know of his future with Barry going forward from 2000 going forward. This is once again, that the timey-wiminess of, like, this is an Eobard who doesn't know what's coming. He knows enough about Barry, knowing, like, he set that in motion because he's like, yeah, this is the day your parents die, and I know you know it, so I wanted to give you one last moment with your parents. Such a beautiful moment, just so it could rip you apart that much more when I kill them. And obviously, Barry doesn't want to be around Nora or Henry, because it's like, I don't want to. I've already been down this route before. We already did the Flashpoint thing, and that caused massive ripples. And I can't. I don't want to do it again. I don't want to be tempted to do it again because I've already made that mistake. I can't be tempted to do it again. You know, despite how much when fate is basically tempting you like that, it's like, no, I've grown. I know I can't do it. And I think that's the beautifulness of it. That yes, Eobard is doing this to hurt you, but it's so poetic after the closure Barry got last episode with his with Oliver, to be able to kind of have that closure last episode, and kind of, especially because that was a closure episode. It was a lesson that both Barry and Wally needed about. I mean, it was also closure for Diggle as well, where it's like that darkness is always going to be there. But basically, it's about kind of finding a way to live with it, but not being consumed with it. Like, the darkness that's always going to be there. And I think a lot of those lessons he learned last episode, that he's learned over these 9 years, have prepared him for this moment, you know? But he didn't want to be around them, but they're like, hey, we need to help him out. Let's take him out to get something to eat. His mom being like, I will not take no for an answer. And obviously they talk a little bit about their son, and but Barry's just trying everything he can not to be around them. It's like, oh, my parents are gone. And he's like, it happened a long time ago, but he's like, I just feel like it still feels like it's yesterday. And for his mom, it's like, yeah, you can't outrun that pain. No matter how fast you are, you can't outrun it. And that's that thing. Once again, Wally's dealing with trauma and pain with his mom too. And obviously it's been years since she died, but that pain is still there. And even a trauma like that will never like fully go away. I mean, sadly, that trauma is a part of Barry. And once again, it's just about finding a way to kind of like coexist with it, to have the tools necessary to process it and deal with it. And it's always, for him, it's like that's always been at the core of me. I've always been running from that pain in some shape or form, rather than fully embracing it. No matter what I've been through in this journey, I've never been able to fully let go of it. And so, yes, he's had, Jay Garrick and his wife, who look like his parents, but obviously it's not the same thing. So I'm sure that's always been a twinge of a little bit of that still stings situation. But he runs into Eobard because it's like, yeah, like Barry was about to do the phasing your hand through somebody. Well, I'm like I said, I can't remember the last time they did. Maybe it came up last season with Bart, or the whole Bart and Godspeed thing, and most likely came up then. But it's just like seeing it back to back like this. It's just like, yeah, because you just don't see it that often anymore. So, but he's not going to kill Eobard, and Eobard's like, oh, we're going to have so much fun today. Like, oh, it's Eobard and Barry's day out. But it's like, yeah, like drink up, and the fact of the matter is, Barry, you only have two choices. You can try and stop me and try and save your parents, but in the process end up undoing your entire life, or you kill me, which you won't do. So those are the only two options you have, Barry. And it's like, at the end of the day, I win. Go ahead and say it. And Barry's like, you win. But that's the thing for Barry, and Barry even says this later on, you win the battle, Eobard, but you don't win the war. Like, neither one of us can win this war. We were always going to be forever entangled. Even where I am present day, you will always have been a foundational part of my life. You are my origin story. You are my beginning. You are my end. You're my life. Like, my life can't be separated from you. It's just, their lives are just as entangled as light and darkness is. Like, there is no escaping that mixture. There's, we're too ingrained in each other's life. And so for Barry, it's like, right, I can't run away from this, but I can run towards it. And so he went to go see Henry and Nora one more time, and it's like, right, he just wishes that he could tell his parents that, he loves them, and he thinks that they'd be proud of the person that their love is what made him the man that he is today. And them telling him, like, hey, we think your parents would be proud of you for that, And for Barry, this was like that full closure he needed. Obviously, the timing is also interesting too. Once again, just because the flashpoint of it all, because we're getting it movie-wise and stuff like that, God, next month. So, I mean, those who haven't already seen it early at like CinemaCon and stuff like that, and anyone who just fortunate enough to have been able to see it before now. But either way, tangents and all that aside. But then Barry runs into Joe, and we find out the person who's possessed Joe is the negative Speed Force. And it's like, it's talking about how Barry's legacy has basically thrown everything off balance. Which I'm like, what are you talking about? This started because of your avatar. Your avatar's the one that threw everything off balance. Once again, this entire series has always been in an alternate timeline. Once again, because Barry got his powers 10 years earlier than he was originally supposed to. Because that was the whole point. Like, he got them in 2014. He wasn't supposed to get them... Was it 10 years? Or was it like 8 years? I can't remember now. Because he... Might have even been 6 years. Because I think it was like, he got them in like 2014, and he ended up not supposed to get them until like maybe 2020 or something. Like, it was something like that, or maybe even 2024. I don't remember. But it's like, yeah, like, Eobar's the one that's... But, you know, the negative Speed Force is like, you've kind of thrown everything on balance. You destroyed my avatar. It's like, to be fair, your avatar destroyed himself. He was so consumed, and you didn't really do much to stop him. That's where I'm like... But it's like, yeah, there's nothing you can do to stop me. I'm a force of nature. And the fact is, I am going to destroy you. And the only choice you have is kill Joe, but that won't stop me. You just end up killing your father and kind of destroying your own existence. So Barry has no choice on like what he's supposed to do in this moment. So the two of them end up clashing, and Barry focuses on everything he's got waiting for him. And in this moment, he ends up, like, his lightning clashes with the lightning of the negative Speed Force, and it causes a shockwave, and that was enough to kind of expel it. I was kind of thinking, like, oh, Barry's going to be stuck here with no powers type of situation. A la the Flashpoint storyline, even though, like, Barry still kept his powers in the... Flashpoint in this show, obviously in the storyline. I don't know if it's... I'd assume it's this way in the comics as well, because of the movies doing it and the animated Justice League Flashpoint Paradox movie did it as well. So, but yeah, I thought Barry was going to be stuck here without his powers, but then he like zipped Joe away after the fact, and the crystal that made him the Avatar disappeared as well. And once Joe was back in the car, like his hand was shaking, I was like, I don't know if that's going to be something that's going to stick with Joe for the rest of his life, like going forward, and who knows how much of an effect that might have, or just he knows something's going on and it just like something terrifying happened, he just doesn't remember it. So, but Barry comes face to face with Eobard. Once again, has that conversation with him, like he ends up running towards Eobard, because it's like, no, we have to stop this. You and me, I get it. All those years ago, your chance to rise to occasion, I inspired you. You wanted to be like me, and you wanted to become a hero in your own right, but I took that away from you. We can change that. Our history doesn't have to be what it is. But Eobard's like, no, I know what you're trying to do, Barry. You're talking about I'm going to lose. No. This is my victory lap. I'm going to win, and you know it, and you're just jealous. That's all it is. You're trying to, like, confuse me, but I know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. I'm going to win tonight by killing your parents, and this is... Because Barry is like, things between us can be different. Our legacies don't have to be what it was. Once again, you win this battle, but you will not win this war. Neither of us can. Because Barry also can't tell Eobard what his future holds, because it's like, I mean, for one, there's so much beyond this moment, but it's like, this is where things start from you, your origin. I've been there at your end. Your end comes, obviously, the negative Speed Force, obviously, it's going to continue existing, but it's like, at the end of the day, you don't do this. But he refuses, like, this is going to be my moment to get revenge, and him and Barry end up clashing, and I love that. I don't know if that's kind of implying, like, Flashpoint. I mean, let's not forget, Crisis on Infinite Earths happened, so Flashpoint may never have happened on this Earth Prime. Barry remembers Flashpoint because everyone has memories before, like, those who were, you know, and obviously with those who were fortunate enough to get the rings later on that made everyone remember the original timeline and everything before the whole multiverse ended up rebooting. But I don't know. I don't know if it, like Flashpoint happened in this timeline anymore on Earth Prime. Like, I don't know if Flashpoint ever happened, because there are, like, I don't know if that was 2 or 3 different Barrys. Like, the Barry that clashed with him, I don't know if that's, because the Barry that's there watching, and then that our Barry, like, holds up his hands and tells him to stop, that was, like, full circle, like, because that was Barry from season 1 being told by, obviously, because if you go back, it's a different costume, but it's like, maybe it's supposed to imply, like, oh, like, that was before everything completely changed, so you can, the timey-wiminess of it, because obviously it's like, I remember there being another Barry that stopped season 1 Barry from doing what he's doing, so, because obviously, like, that's been such a fixed point that multiple Barrys have landed there at some point in time, but the fact is, I don't think season 2/3 Barry is there, but I think that's season 1 Barry, but yeah, our Barry's been one telling him, like, no, stop, don't do this, and got himself, his younger self away, and in that moment, Eobard finds out, wait, I'm stuck here, and he's like, wait, you got yourself away from here, and I still murdered your mom, and you let it happen. He's like, I had to. It's like, your mom dying's a fixed point. And he's like, yeah, it's what made me who I am. It's like, once again, your attempt to kill your arch nemesis led to him becoming who he is today. And it's like, honestly, I thank you, Eobard. Because of you, I was able to get that closure one final time with my parents, and I needed this to be able to, like, finally, like, take those steps forward again. You know, there's always been that part of me that was stuck there that night, and I've been running from it ever since. This gave me that chance for closure, Eobard. And for Eobard, it's like, no, this can't be happening. He's like, this night, he's like, I know it hurts you, and it's like, it does, and it did, but the fact is, you helped me, so I will forever be grateful, Eobard, for what you've done for me in this moment. And in that moment, Barry gets zapped away, and Eobard's like, gotta play out his story to what we know it's become over the course of the series, which, I mean, obviously it's had its bumps and hiccups with the way where your story has been on not only The Flash, but even Legends of Tomorrow, the different versions of you in that regard. I mean, obviously even the Eobard that Barry got to meet last season before he ended up becoming Reverse Flash Eobard again. But in that moment, we had the ending of the episode, which ties into the beginning of the episode, which I didn't talk about. The moment that opening happened, I was like, it's gotta be Eddie. But even I was looking like, isn't this Joe's house? I mean, Joe and Cecile's house? But then we later on see, like, so at first, like, okay, so Eddie isn't a cop in this point. You're like, no, he's a scientist. And at first I was like, what's going on here? First and foremost, too, like, of course, this is going to be where it has a major part in all of this. There's some through lines that we will never get conclusions to. Like, there's certain characters we never got to see pop up one last time. Like, over the course of the show, there's certain storylines that are just kind of left in the ether that they're kind of, like, off on their own, existing in this universe, never get, like, full closure for them. That's just what it is. But this is the major plot point they set up at the end of season 1 that they never went back to. But it's like, it's always been a thing of, they have to end the series off on that, right? And it seems like we are. But what's interesting, though, it's like, now it seems like Eddie is being chosen as the next Avatar because he gets struck by the lightning. Fortunately for him, it doesn't end up in a coma like Barry did. But he immediately gets up, and then he sees a police file covered in red lightning. He picks it up, and it's his own, like, it's a file about how he died. Because we don't know where and when that time frame is. But then it's like, Eddie's looking at it, and he's like, who's Eddie Thawne? So I'm like, okay, so this ain't even an alternate timeline. This ain't an alternate. Well, I was about to say, it's like, well, that doesn't mean anything. Because I was about to say, like, well, this could be on a different Earth. Because I was about to say, because I was like, right, we have the different Harrison Wells who all have different names, necessarily. I mean, some of them did, some of them did. So it's like, you could be an Eddie from a different Earth. But it's like, it'd have to be our Eddie. Like, whatever happened to his body afterwards, something happened. Maybe he just woke up with no memory of who he was. But then you would think he'd be like, oh, am I Eddie? But it's like, yeah. So the negative speed force brought that to him, colliding whatever circumstances he's in with what his life was in this original, and then on Earth Prime. Who knows where that's going to go? Still got 3 parts I have no idea what to fully expect. I don't want to know how this is all going to play out, but I'm so excited to see where the next part of this goes and how ultimately this continues and builds up to the series finale. Is Barry going to pop back into present day? Has stuff been changed? I did even love the new intro where it's just like, yeah, we have a normal intro and then it changes and then like becomes like the new world. Once again, it's very much like the crossovers or like the Armageddon, which still counted as a crossover as well. So I'm so fascinated to see where all this ends up taking us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.